Gentlelady from North Carolina.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank our witnesses today for their frank contributions to this very useful discussion. We had a similar hearing on this issue last Congress. At that time, I hadn't yet come to a position on this issue, but after studying the issue and hearing the perspectives laid out at that hearing and today, I believe a move to biennial budgeting is sure, particularly if it is not paired with additional budget process reforms. Each day, my constituents cry out for Congress to use, quote, the power of the purse, end quote. Unfortunately, it is clear that after Congress's consistent surrender of legislative power to the President over the past few decades, the power of the purse has become illusionary at best. A budget process document from the Peterson-Pugh Commission on Budget Reform stated that a con of biennial budgeting would be that it delegates authority to the executive. We will not see an effective power of the purse restored to its rightful place with Congress by cutting in half the opportunities Congress has to utilize it. Eliminating the budget and appropriations process every other year would also run counter to our emphasis on regular order. Members of the House support regular order because it gives Congress several opportunities to influence the outcome of legislation and policy. Ceasing consideration of appropriations bills covering the full spectrum of federal agencies that generally eventually pass in some form and that are typically considered under an open process would disempower members. While they may have the opportunity to weigh in on an authorizing legislation, past experience shows us that legislation is less frequently enacted and has a far less immediate impact. Finally, we have to admit the real problem, and it is not time. Since we've done it repeatedly, both executive agencies and Congress clearly have the staff and expertise to do an annual budget process. The truly scarce resource is political will. When Congress has failed to complete the appropriations process in the past, it's been because it has feared making the tough decisions necessary and punted to future years. My colleague on the Rules Committee and chairman of the HHS Appropriations Subcommittee, I think, has rightfully stated the issue. I'll admit there would be frustrations included in completing the process on time, such as late votes or working on the weekends. But those would be worthy investments in genuinely fulfilling our responsibility to our constituents. There are certainly reforms to the budget and appropriations process that could make it more effective, such as reconsidering the number of appropriations bills or implementing no budget, no pay permanently. I'm very supportive of the Budget Committee's work to reform the Budget Act and hope we are able to strengthen Congress's role in the budget process and produce pressure points that force Congress and the President to confront our fiscal realities. Perhaps in that context, a discussion on biennial budgeting could have merit, but it must be accompanied by the President's return to Congress the power of the purse and acceptance of new limitations on his authority. And I agree that this is not a partisan issue. It is not associated only with this president, but with all presidents. So I, again, thank my colleagues. I think already the testimony has raised some important new on why don't we have Ways and Means bring entitlement reform to the floor for us to deal with. I'm frankly tired of explaining to people that our real problem is not the annual spending, which is only 1/3 of what we spend each year, but is truly in what is called the automatic pilot spending that's going on. I hate two words that are used often, and I really won't even say them. One is the M word, and the other one is the E word. And I honestly don't like those words at all because, again, they're not in the Constitution. We have the discretion every year in this body and in the Senate to decide what money should be spent. And frankly, we should be doing that every year instead of putting anything on automatic pilot. I am, my first month here, I made that speech. I couldn't believe people were talking about how we divide these two spending pots. But anyway, I think it's really important. I think it's very important that we highlight this every chance we get for the American public and that we be held accountable to do something about this. I'm big on that, too.